section of balafons that we could, had metal frames so we could fold them up and take them on the road. Because these instruments are very delicate. There's gourds, underneath bamboo frames, and you can only take them around so many times before they start to come apart. So they're just not meant to throw into a packing crates and take on tour. So we built our own, and we used them a lot. We used them on our records, the balafons. We played them on stage.
So what do you miss about performing, or do you miss anything about performing?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. The nights where I felt really on were great nights. I think I miss most being at the Whiskey Go-Go in the clubs, where it was real close and hot and sweaty. I think that's what I really enjoyed the most about it. But I was never cut out to be a performer for the rest of my life because I couldn't bear touring. And so I loved playing, but I hated touring. So it's a problem. When you're in a band, that's a problem. It's not a good combination.
But you went all around Africa, so what did you hate about touring?
Because we had to play the same things every night. When you're on a tour in a band, you have to do repetition, and that, for me, was a killer. I started to hate my own music after I did a song a certain number of times. So, ultimately, you're kind of doomed if that's your psychological makeup. To be in theater or to be in a band, you have to be able to embrace the same thing every night, or if you're in theater, the same lines. I don't know how stage actors do it, and when I see bands like U2 or the Rolling Stones, or I don't know how they do it, because I reached a point where it's like I never wanted to hear one of my own songs again, and I would reach that point fairly quickly, so I was kind of doomed, for that to be my life.
So how do you feel about taking questions from an audience?
Expect to do that in the future, or was that a one-time thing?
It's just, if a director asks me, I'll do a song. It's just really simple. I have no problem with it. It's just Timur, I'd given him a song and he was like, no, it's not right. And then I was in the middle, I was already on another movie. I was with Guillermo on Hellboy, and then Timur calls says, I want that song. And I was like, oh great, how do I record this? I'm in London scoring. So I tried to put it together for him, and I was doing the vocals in between recording sessions of Hellboy at Abbey Road, and I was recording the score all day, and then I'd go in another room with the microphone and do the vocals, and then he told me he needed it in Russian as well. And that I realized was just pure sadism on Timur's part. But I did it as best I could.
See, if you miss Oingo Boingo, all you had to do is ask him to write a song and be a film director. So, you and the Hat.
There are a lot of scores out there that don't use orchestra that sound really good. A score, there's nothing that says a score needs to have orchestra, but I think if you're going to use orchestra, the real orchestra sounds better than the sampled orchestra. So, I mean, there's a lot of scores I've done where half of what I've laid down on before going into the orchestra stays. And really only the strings, brass, and woodwinds disappear. Everything else I've already done myself. I like using my own samples and my own stuff, but I still can't ever top real brass strings and woodwinds. So even though the sample libraries are getting better, and I think they're suitable, you can't get the nuances out of those instruments yet, and maybe someday they will, but for now, I can still hear the difference usually between a sampled orchestral score, but those work best if the score is not orchestral, and it's like I obviously don't, try not to use an orchestra if you're going to do that, but if you have to, I mean, I've done scores and pieces where I've done almost all samples because there was no money. It sounds a little cheesy, but what are you going to do? It's like, ultimately, as a composers, we just had to do what we got to do.
I've got a few questions from...
He can't really verbally express himself. He generally does it with body language. If I'm playing a piece of music and he's pulling his hair, it's a bad sign. If he just seems to be looking intently, that's a good sign. For 5 years, I lived at Malibu, and he used to come out, and I'd serve him a martini. He would sit and watch the sun go down and then go in. It's like, I figured that was a really good thing, but now he's usually not taking the martini anymore. But if I could, I'd always be, at the beach with a martini before listening to music. I found that was very helpful. But it hasn't changed in 26 years, really hasn't.
You right there, the glasses on top of your head.
Excuse me. First of all, big fan. Second of all, do you still use any of your old bandmates for any of your composing to help you come up with new ideas for movies and that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, first off, no one can help me. I wish I had anybody who could help me come up with ideas. If I knew who that was, I would definitely, they'd probably be a slave in my basement or something. But no, I don't. You know, first off, I don't write for guitar, bass, drums a lot. When I do guitar, I actually often am playing bad electric guitar myself, and you know, you're out there all by yourself, dangling in the wind when you're a composer. Is my experience, and it's like, you know, we go, who can I call that can offer me an idea right now? But you never find that. I've never found that name in the phone book yet. Well, I think Batman's probably my most overrated movie score. You know, I think I did an okay job. I didn't think, you know, at the time I felt like I was just barely hanging on for dear life. You know, and people tell me they think it's really a good score, and I go, all right, yes, I think it's okay. But I don't think anything is underrated. I don't necessarily think I do a good job every time. And sometimes, you know, people go, they think they just don't really like a score. I'll go, well, maybe you're right. Maybe it wasn't very good. I don't know. So I'm not sure I have an underrated score. Also, I don't know whether I would know what was a score that everybody hated, because I don't really privy to that information. Pardon me?
Like personally for you, what do you feel like, oh, I wish more people noticed this movie score?
Okay, well, yeah, there's movies that come out that are gone in a quick second that I worked really hard on and liked, you know, and they go, I hope people find this music. And certainly amongst them, high up there would be Standard Operating Procedure, because that was a movie that really nobody saw when it came out. And but I was really proud of, you know, the work with Errol. I loved working with Errol. He was great. Another one was, you know, The Wolfman came out and was gone in like 48 hours. And but again, I really loved working with Joe Johnston. You know, but there was a common link between Joe Johnston on The Wolfman and Errol Morris in Standard Operating Procedure, which is they tried to exert no influence or control. They just said write, and I just got to write. And everything I wrote, they were just like, that's fine, that's great. And really? You don't want me to do like 20 more versions? No, it's fine just like it is. So there are pieces that I just felt like I was almost like if I was writing a concert piece for like an orchestral piece, like I wasn't writing for film. Both of those were kind of like, I just felt like I was just writing, and it just happened to be going into a film because I was getting no instruction from the director. Not that I wasn't getting instruction, but I was getting no input pulling me in any direction or trying to modulate what I was doing in any way, shape, or form. So it's just kind of like, I'm just writing. Like when I was writing Serenata Schizophrenic, I just felt like I'm just writing. Or the ballet I did for Twilight, which is still unrecorded, which I'm trying to correct if I can in the next year, because I don't feel like a work is done until it's recorded. But so maybe it's the Twilight Art Ballet, because that's not unrecorded and almost nobody's heard that. So maybe that's the top of the list.
You know, everyone's here for film scoring, but I know you from The Simpsons. That's where I fell in love with you.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh, I fell in love with you in The Simpsons. Everyone hears about film scoring. You did The Simpsons. You're God. That is awesome.
Simpsons was just a lucky break.
But was it easy? That's my question. Was it a lucky break? Was it easy? Did you do it on a bar napkin?
It was one day of work.
Yes, that's what I want to know.
And,
It's internal.
I met with Matt Groening, and he showed me a pencil sketch version of the titles, and he said, what do you think? And I said, if you want something that's really retro, I'm the guy, like something maybe that Hanna-Barbera piece that never happened. But I said, if you want something contemporary, I'm not the guy. He says, no, retro, let's do something really retro. I had it written in the car before I even got home. I got home, I quickly played the demo piece, sent it in. He says, yeah, it's good. That was it. Tightened up a few moments, and we recorded it like a couple weeks later. It was like literally the quickest thing I've ever done. And I didn't expect anybody to see it, because I figured this is so weird. You know? It's one of those things, they'll do one season, but they'll only do 3 episodes, and they'll get canceled, and they'll do that. I don't really know. I mean, John Williams kind of really established the kind of the tone of what makes a big score like that, certainly with Star Wars, and even though it's not a superhero thing, Superman, that was the first kind of superhero movie, wasn't it? I mean, modern superhero movie. But other than that, I don't know. I'm a kind of believe in melody. You know, you use a melody and you kind of make it stick. You know, I'm not going to comment on other people's work in that genre. Some of it's good, some of it I think it's okay.